Becoming a better rider takes time, practice, and miles in the saddle. But what if there was a way to become a better and safer motorcyclist without even getting on your bike? Some of these tips might seem obvious, but you'd be surprised how many riders don't actually use them. So here's how to immediately become a better rider. First, understand the common causes of accidents. If you understand where you're most likely to crash, you can take steps to avoid the potential danger. In 2 out of 3 collisions, human error is the primary cause. This means that most crashes aren't happening because of mechanical failures like faulty brakes, and it's really good news because it means that there are a huge number of collisions that we can avoid as motorcyclists. Here are some of the common causes of crashes on UK roads. The first is a driver or a rider failing to look properly. I've been guilty of this myself, and believe me, you only have to make this mistake once. Pulling out of a junction assuming it's clear and then very quickly realising that it's not. Why does this happen? In my case, I just plain didn't look properly. I scanned right and left, but I lingered on the left for a bit too long, so that by the time I pulled out, the situation on the right had changed and a speeding vehicle nearly T-boned me. It's a mixture of just not doing your checks properly, but also a bit of overconfidence. Drivers who are on roads that they're familiar with, like their own street, are less likely to check properly because no one ever pulls out of there or traffic never comes from that side. So take extra care at junctions and on residential streets. Another problem is when a driver or rider looks, but fails to actually see. There's some interesting neuroscience behind this, but the long and short of it is that as you're turning your head left and right, you're not actually seeing a continuous image. You're seeing a series of images stitched together, a bit like a flipbook. If you were to flip the pages slowly, you'd be able to analyse each frame in a bit more detail. If you flip the pages quickly, you don't get to see much detail per frame, and instead you see a smooth continuous image. This is dangerous on the road because sometimes your brain will literally delete parts of an image, like a pedestrian, cyclist, or a motorcyclist. To combat this, turn your head more slowly and pause for a second each side. Bear in mind that other road users might not do this, even though it looks like they've seen you, they might not have. Second, failing to judge the speed of an approaching vehicle. This is especially a problem at high speeds, like when merging onto a dual carriageway or onto a motorway. Look up the looming effect. There are some good demonstrations on how things moving at speed can look very far away, but they actually seem to creep up on you out of nowhere as they get closer. If you see a car waiting to pull out of a junction, be aware that they might think that you're going slower than you actually are. Third, cornering too quickly. We all love riding on twisties, but you don't have to spend too much time on motorcycle YouTube to see countless videos of people high-siding and low-siding around bends. Around half of motorcycle accidents involve just the motorcycle alone with no other road user, and cornering makes up a huge proportion of these crashes. Ride to the road conditions and don't push yourself or your bike to its max. So once you've understood the common causes of accidents, the next thing to do is to understand yourself. Many motorcycle riders don't accept how their actions could have contributed to a situation. An important thing to do is to let go of the idea of blame and fault and instead focus on responsibility. It might not be your fault that a driver pulled out in front of you, but it is your responsibility to avoid that collision and to keep yourself safe. Blame, fault and liability are words from the insurance world and they should stay there. Let the insurance decide who's to blame. Think about how your actions could have contributed to a situation though. Could you have taken a better road position or slowed down earlier or used the horn? There are way too many videos of people riding in blind spots and then being surprised when a car doesn't see them. When I first started riding, I used to have a close call almost every time I went out and I was convinced that drivers were trying to kill me. My number of close calls now has reduced to almost zero because situations just don't get that far anymore. It's not great for my motovlogging career since I don't get any juicy mirror smashing videos, but it is good for my long-term survival. Your emotional state has a huge impact on your risk levels. I have a pre-ride ritual. Before I set off, I take a few seconds to check in with myself and see how I'm feeling. Riding angry, stressed, nervous, or even excited is going to dramatically affect your risk levels out on the road. Taking a second to acknowledge how I'm feeling is usually enough to reset my focus and put me in the right frame of mind for my journey. Also, consider the journey itself. Every journey has a purpose, whether it's getting to work or just going out to have fun. Think about how this affects your risk level. Peer pressure, time pressure, an unfamiliar route, poor weather conditions, these can all affect your level of risk. Make sure you're wearing the right gear for the journey. This is likely to be dictated by weather conditions since getting too hot or too cold can be extremely distracting. Finally, understand your bike. Is it safe to ride? Is it an unfamiliar bike? Are you riding a friend's bike or a new bike? My 125, for example, isn't very powerful, so I know to take extra care and really plan my overtakes before committing to them. If your bike has some customization options like moving the pegs or the levers, get it set up how you like it before setting off. You can see that a lot of what makes a good rider then is not actually how well you can control your machine, but how well you can respond to the actions of other road users, predict situations, and learn from your past experiences. Let me know any other tips you have in the comments, and in the meantime, ride safe, and I'll see you in the next one.